Hello and welcome to episode 313 of the official EstablishTheRun.com podcast. My name is Adam Levitan. As always, joined by Evan Silva. Today we will be going through the AFC, what we saw in week 15 and how it affects things for the next 3 weeks. Yes, the NFL season has graciously decided to extend the season to an 18-week season. Evan is thrilled about it, I know. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's get to it.
On today's show, each Tuesday this season, we do go team by team. Hope you guys have enjoyed it all year. If you have, really appreciate if you guys would subscribe for free on YouTube or on anywhere podcasts are found. This show is indeed brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks.com. I know a lot of you have not been able to bet our player props because you're in a state like New York or California or Texas, other states that don't have regulated sports betting. PrizePicks is legal and regulated in those states. 100% deposit bonus up to $100 if you use promo code ETR on PrizePicks or use the link on the show notes. Again, promo code ETR at PrizePicks.com. All right, let's get into it here with the AFC, and the Baltimore Ravens almost had a great win. Shout out to Tyler Huntley, man. I played Tyler Huntley in preseason. Dude was such a boss. I did name him the first team all preseason quarterback. He was awesome in the preseason. He was awesome in this game, at least from a fantasy perspective. And it's very, very clear that he likes throwing the ball to Mark Andrews, man. I mean, Mark Andrews broke the slate. Tyler Huntley broke the slate. It was actually really fun to see. And it's just like, it just goes back to what we've talked about for so long. When your quarterback can run for 100 yards, the floor ceiling combo is ridiculous. And that's what Tyler Huntley has, what you see out of the Ravens.
Yeah, Mark Andrews now on targets from Tyler Huntley. He's caught 27 of 32 targets from Tyler Huntley, 84% catch rate, 320 yards, 10 yards per target, 3 TDs. 22 of Huntley's 27 completions to Mark Andrews have gone for first downs or touchdowns. These dudes are riffing. I mean, they are riffing, and it's pretty cool. The Millionaire Maker, the guy who's the ETR listener
Will
slash
Sue. Yep.
Will Sue. He had the Tyler Huntley, Mark Andrews stack.
Yeah,
man, for some reason I didn't even consider playing Mark Andrews this past week.
I had the Huntley Mark Andrews stack on FanDuel, and my team was so bad around it. I like min cash. It was just so bad. But yeah, it was awesome. I was just gonna go ahead because I have a different point on the Ravens.
No, make it. And then I'm going to tell you something about, I was talking to Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl director, about Tyler Huntley, but go ahead. Yeah,
I was just going to say that Sammy Watkins was out for this game, and I was like, man, Rashad Bateman should have a pretty big role. Rashad Bateman plays the entire game and catches one ball for 5 yards on 2 targets. And I'm not going to read too much into it because it was Huntley and not Lamar Jackson out there, but just wanted to note that. But yeah, go ahead back on Huntley.
Yeah, so Jim Nagy, who runs the Senior Bowl, I hit him up. I was like, yo, man, what? I went back and looked at Tyler Huntley's stats at Utah. I don't even remember hearing anything about him before the draft. He completed 73% of his passes, 10.3 yards per pass attempt, 9 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions, 5 rushing TDs in the Pac-12. Okay? This is not small-time football. And yet he wasn't even invited to the combine. And I asked Jim Nagy, why is this? Obviously, he's a good athlete. He put up, really strong passing stats. And he said that the only team that they knew of that had a draftable grade on him was the Ravens, the only team. And so they're not going to invite a guy like that to the Senior Bowl when there's just like legit so little interest in him across the NFL. So that kind of gives you a glance into how those things are decided and how a guy like Tyler Huntley can fly under the radar. Now, why did all these teams not have, draftable grades on him? That's a head scratcher, but it's true that sometimes guys do slip through the cracks. The thing is that it's usually a guy that, played at Stony Brook or something like that, not a guy that started for 3 years at Utah in the Pac-12. It's crazy.
It's also perfect for the Ravens because it's really hard to change your whole team's identity like when Lamar gets hurt. They don't have to do that. I mean, Huntley plays a very similar style to Lamar Jackson, obviously. Let's go to the Bills. So yeah. I thought the Devin Singletary stuff was so interesting, man. And I don't want to say this is going to be sticky because they've been all over the place all year. But Zach Moss was inactive, leaving only Matt Breida and Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary played 65 snaps. Matt Breida played 3. And I mean, I thought Breida would play way more than that. I thought Singletary was a fine play. But I thought Matt Breida would play 40% or 35%. If they do this going forward, it's not like a great role, but if Devin Singletary really has this 100% lock on it going forward, he's certainly going to be a very, very viable play. Also, Gabe Davis, shout out to Gabe, just a good player, so clearly better than Manny Sanders at this point in their careers. 585-2 on 7 targets, has had a red zone role for his whole career, so love to see it for Gabe. But yeah, what do you think about the Singletary stuff and anything else on the Bills?
I think it's real straightforward. If they're only going to have 2 backs active and one they're really not going to use in Matt Breida, then Devin Singletary can get there. Now, he's still going to have to deal with, Josh Allen, potentially poaching touchdowns or, piling up a bunch of rushing attempts. And, next week it might only be 16 touches for Devin Singletary. But in this one, he had 23 touches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. We're probably not going to know week to week whether or not Zach Moss is going to be active until the actual inactives come out. But yeah, whenever that happens, it's going to make Devin Singletary somewhat interesting. Gabriel Davis, last 6 games, 17.7 yards per reception, 11.6 yards per target, 4 touchdowns. The dude is good. We knew that last year, and it was kind of strange that they kind of went out of their way to keep him in this number 4 receiver role. But now we're seeing him move up to number 3. He's playing every snap, basically. He's a good player. He's big. He's physical. He can run a little bit. He's going to continue to be well. He's got a tough matchup this week against New England. Yeah. But he's good.
Bengals. The thing with Burrow and the pass game is what we've been talking about all year. They only ramp up the aggression in the pass game when forced, and they were not forced in this game. They won the game 15-10. The Broncos couldn't do anything. And so you see Burrow only throw it 22 times. All the receivers fail. And actually, Tyler Boyd didn't fail, but it's so hard to pick out which receiver it's going to be in spots like that when the volume is so low. The lead story, though, is Joe Mixon got hurt. And, they have other backs on their roster who I think can play. Samaje Perine, Chris Evans. I'm not sure how healthy he is. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Mixon going forward. What do you see out of Cincinnati's win in Denver?
Yeah, we're just going to have to play it by ear and monitor the injury reports throughout the week on Joe Mixon. Turned his ankle late against the Broncos. Zach Taylor did say yesterday, on Monday, that the early thought is that he was encouraged by that Joe Mixon did not have a significant injury. But again, we're going to have to play that one by ear. Yeah, the Bengals ran 51 plays against the Broncos, one with their defense. Their defense has been pretty good this year. Kind of an underrated aspect of their success. Everyone talks about Joe Burrow. They don't talk. The defense has been. This is the best Bengals defense I can remember in a while.
Yeah. Browns. It's tough to really have any takeaways here when they didn't have Kareem Hunt or Jarvis Landry or Baker Mayfield or Austin Hooper. A couple offensive linemen I think were still out. But my main takeaway was it was so clear the Raiders were selling out to stop Nick Chubb at all costs, and Nick Chubb still had 23 carries for 91 yards. And the touchdown. Dude is just such a freak. So yeah, I don't think we have really a lot to say on Cleveland given what the spot that they had. I do expect most, if not all of those guys to be back next week. What do you see out of the Browns?
No, the Raiders did a really good job, I thought, of containing Nick Chubb for the vast majority of the game until the third quarter, and he broke a big one. And then he scored a touchdown. And he finished with 93 total yards in the score. And that's what, these types of backs like Jonathan Taylor, even, you can defend him well, but then they break a big one, they score, and they're going to be fine, and that's what we saw from Nick Chubb against the Raiders. I thought David Njoku looked good in his opportunities, but he didn't get both feet down on that really, really close touchdown that actually occurred just before Nick Chubb scored. But he just only one of his foot hit the white chalk in the third quarter. Donovan Peoples-Jones dropped some passes, but man, he is a really talented dude. And when he gets, he's an improving guy too. I think the arrow is pointing up on Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, Harrison Bryant ended up playing this game, which surprised me, but David Njoku still got a pretty good target share from Nick Mullins and should have had that touchdown. Just barely came down out of bounds. I know. I'm interrupting the video. Wah. But if you're enjoying this video and want to see more fantasy football and DFS content like it, please just take 2 seconds, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, really does go a long way for us, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and now back to the show. Broncos. All right, people need the Drew Lock takes, Evan, because Teddy looks like he's going to be out. One thing I'll say about Drew Lock, though, I don't think he's better than Teddy. I don't think he's better than Teddy for real life quarterbacking. For fantasy, though, I think you can make a case that Drew Lock is at least more aggressive and like throws YOLO balls, throws into coverage. And yeah, that sucks for real life, but maybe he can like unlock Sutton and Judy. I mean, Cortland Sutton has 2 catches or fewer in 7 straight games. So what do you think about Drew Lock and how he affects this team going forward?
When Drew Lock historically has done his damage, it's been when the Broncos get down big and then he's playing against like, soft coverages and he can kind of pick them apart. I don't think he's going to come out unlocking Cortland Sutton in the first quarter. I think that what he would need would be the Raiders. The problem is the Broncos defense is good.
Yeah.
And the Raiders defense is bad. I'm sorry, the Raiders offense is bad. 16 or fewer points scored in 6 of their last 7.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, it could happen, but I wouldn't count on it. One thing we were right about last week, Javonte Williams would take the lead role over Melvin Gordon against Cincinnati. He did. It was, Melvin Gordon still got 16 touches to Javonte Williams 19, but Javonte Williams ran 19 routes to Melvin Gordon's 10. So the pendulum swung a little bit in favor of Javonte this past week, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't the rest of the way.
Texans, we normally gloss over the Texans here. I will say, though, that Brandon Cooks, against the Jaguars, it's not that surprising that like Davis Mills and Brandon Cook can find the connection against the Jaguars. Now they have to play Chargers and 49ers. Their next 2 games, obviously a different story, so I don't want to overreact too much. Anything for you on the Texans?
No, just say that Davis Mills is a competitive player, and he was a 5-star recruit out of high school. Over his last 8 appearances, 7 starts, 68.1% completions, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, almost 7 yards per pass attempt. I hated this pick when they made it, but I mean, I think they got at least a competent backup.
This Colts game feels like it was ages ago, but this Colts game, Carson Wentz threw it 12 times. Michael Pittman was ejected, and they won. Just absolutely ridiculous. And I also wanted to give a shout out to JT, man. And I was too low on JT after the Carson Wentz injury in preseason, after the offensive line concerns. I wasn't really taking JT. Like I was taking Calvin Ridley over Jonathan Taylor at the end of the first round and in the early second round in season-long drafts. And that was just like, decided the whole season for me on those teams, And so, it is what it is on JT. But, man, like, in hindsight, I guess you could say that if you thought Carson Wentz was going to be okay, just bet on JT's talent, and it was going to shine. And that's, like, what happened. He's such a freak. So, anyways, anything you saw on the Colts, who got it really, like I said, Carson Wentz barely threw it, and they won 27-17 over the Patriots.
Now, before Michael Pittman got ejected, though, he got owned by Patriots cornerback J.C. Jackson.
Yeah.
1 catch for 7 yards on 5 targets. J.C. Jackson is like an emerging shutdown corner in New England. They get Arizona next on Saturday night. That's going to be a very big game for both teams. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add.
Jaguars, and this was one that I was on, man. I was like, everybody was like, oh my God, the Jaguars are going to come out and smash because Urban Meyer got fired. I mean, they still suck, right? Like just because, and I think a better coach can help them for sure, but you can't do it in 3 days. Like you can't change a team in 3 days. So, for the Lions to go from 3 to 5, I thought was completely ridiculous. And they lose to the Texans at home. I mean, they're just an embarrassment. And I don't want to panic I'm not panicking on Trevor Lawrence, but he's been bad, man. Like by every viable statistic, Trevor Lawrence has been bad. Any thoughts on the Jaguars, who again lost a home game to the Texans?
No. Laquan Treadwell led the team in targets.
Yeah.
Brian Schottenheimer is calling plays, not Darrell Bevell. Darrell Bevell is like the CEO style coach, and Brian Schottenheimer is dialing up the play calling. James Robinson, 21 touches, his most since week 3. Hey, he gets the Jets next.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And it was a perfect storm because not only was Urban gone, and I think Bevell clearly believes more in Robinson, but also Carlos Hyde was out. So we'll see if Carlos Hyde comes back this week. But yeah, obviously James Robinson's going to be a great play against the Jets on Sunday. Chiefs. We finally got this pop-off game for the Chiefs, man, and you can see kind of how it happens with Justin Herbert playing well and pushing them, and they just go absolutely nuke. I got so many messages from people giving me hate about the age model when Kelsey had the walk-off touchdown, so that was all in good fun. But yeah, Kelsey and Tyreek and Mahomes finally hits. I play that. I've lost so much money playing the Mahomes double this year. Play Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek, figure out the rest in tournaments. I've played it so many times this year and lost so much money. For it to hit on the showdown slate was like so painful. But anyways, what'd you see out of the Chiefs?
Yeah, Chiefs have won 7 straight. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has 14 touches or fewer. He's gone over 14 touches only one time since week 4. Darrell Williams not going away. Travis Kelce was placed on the COVID list. Travis Kelce is vaccinated. You would think that he'll be back to face the Steelers. But we'll have to keep tabs on that one.
Yeah, and Tyreek.
Oh, and also Tyreek went on there. Yeah.
Tyreek on the COVID list too. So this is kind of what we talked about. If you listen to the first part of the NFC pod, this is why Evan's kind of changing the style a bit of the matchups column. I mean, we're not going to have any idea if Kelsey or Tyreek are playing until much, much later in the week. Vegas, I don't have a lot of takeaways from this Vegas game that they played in Cleveland last night. I thought Zay Jones actually played a pretty good game, but I don't think that's very sustainable. They mixed in Peyton Barber a little bit more than I thought they would in place of Josh Jacobs. But yeah, I don't really have a lot of takeaways on Vegas. What'd you see?
Yeah, Ben Baldwin, big analytics guy, he put up a stat for showing every running back, like a scatter plot, showing every running back and how they have performed adjusted for their team's run blocking. And Josh Jacobs is at the bottom. So he's not adding anything to runs. I actually thought he looked all right when he had the ball against Cleveland. But he's not very good. He really isn't. He's just very, very average. And the fact that Peyton Barber has been more productive than him on a per touch basis, like that speaks to the fact that Josh Jacobs is just very, very replacement level. Darren Waller, I don't know if he's coming back this year. I mean, they said that he's had like setbacks. The knee injury is definitely worse than anticipated. He's also been dealing with a back injury. Back injuries suck. This was the Raiders' second win since week 7. And again, they have scored 16 points or fewer in 6 of their last 7 games. I mean, that is anemic offense.
Really bad. Chargers. There was a slight role change for Josh Palmer. We talked about how he played so well in that game when Keenan was out. He did run 21 routes in that game against the Chiefs. Jalen Guyton only ran 18, so I think that's the least notable. The Austin Eckler thing was weird. Like, he was active, and he looked fine, but he only played 27 out of 79 snaps, only ran 14 routes. So he was clearly limited, still had a pretty good fantasy game. Anything for you on the Chargers? That game feels like it was, months ago.
Yes, it does. Yeah, the Austin Eckler thing, I think most coaches, most like ball coaches, would be like, hey, if Eckler's looking good out there, we're gonna let him run with it, But like Brandon Staley, you remember Joey Bosa suffered what was believed to be a concussion in one game, and Joey Bosa has like a little bit of a history of concussions, and Brandon Staley was like, even though the neurologist like cleared him on the sideline, Brandon Staley was like, no. We're going to hold him out. We're going to do what's in the best interest of our players. This game was on a short week. Austin Eckler banged up. Again, I think most coaches would have let Austin Eckler go, but Brandon Staley is very cautious, and I think he, trying to do what's in the best interest of the players. They played this game without Rashawn Slater. He is already back from the COVID list, except Corey Linsley, their center, went on the COVID list. Austin Eckler was reported to be going on the COVID list, but was not actually placed on the COVID list. And I guess he's fine. I don't know. That was really weird. In this game, it was clear that Justin Jackson was the number 2 behind Austin Eckler. So if Eckler does pop up on the COVID list later in the week, Justin Jackson had 14 touches for 99 yards. Justin Jackson is good, and he could do multiple things. It was painful to watch Mike Williams on the first drive get 3 consecutive end zone targets and come up with nothing on them. He finished with like 7 fantasy points.
Also, shout out to Donald Parham, man. We've done, so many jokes and so much love for Donald Parham through the XFL days. That was really tough to watch and scary on him. Sounds like he's doing okay, though. And hopefully he's going to be all right. Let's go to Dolphins. So, yeah, I did, like 5 minutes or more on the Myles Gaskin thing because, I really think it's the worst thing I've ever done in DFS was play Myles Gaskin in cash because we saw it coming. They're not happy with Myles Gaskin. They signed Philip Lindsay. They signed Duke Johnson. Myles Gaskin's been bad. They've been looking for reasons not to play Myles Gaskin. Then you factor in that he didn't practice all week because he was on the COVID list. It was just so bad. And we also find out after the game that Duke Johnson is neighbors with Tua. So we have the neighbor narrative going as well. But yeah, I thought that given they were playing the Jets, it was as expected for Duke. I thought Tua could have certainly played better, but Devontae Parker still got there. What'd you see out of the Dolphins?
Yeah, and Tua was missing his dude, Jalen Waddle, which I think definitely counts for something. It's a big downgrade from him to, Albert Wilson and Isaiah Ford. But yeah, the backfield is still a mess. I fully expect Duke Johnson to stay involved and maybe even run away with the lead back job.
Definitely,
but still, like they have a ton of dudes in this backfield. Malcolm Brown is due back this week, I think. And then Philip Lindsay could come off the COVID list. They still got Myles Gaskin and Salvin Ahmed. Devontae Parker's going to have to deal with Marshawn Lattimore this week at the Saints on Monday Night Football. That's going to be probably not the greatest fantasy game, but it's going to be an interesting, really interesting real life game.
Patriots. So Damian Harris ended up not playing this game. I actually thought he was going to play. Ended up not playing this game, and Ramondre Stevenson still busted, which hurt bad there against the Colts. But I didn't really have too many other takeaways from this game. Kind of as expected, what you see out of the Patriots' loss to the Colts.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson just got killed by the game script. We talked about on the betting show. I like the Colts -2. I had no idea that they were going to dominate the game like that. That was surprising. I think most people were on the Patriots. The Colts are a really good team.
Yeah,
the Colts are a really good team. I think that you could still question the Patriots. The Colts are legit. They might be a top 5 team right now. Damian Harris missed the game with the recurring hamstring injury. We'll have to wait on that, but just seems like it, those are really tricky injuries. The Patriots just placed Kendrick Bourne, who's made a bunch of plays for them on the COVID list. We'll have to watch out for that. Hunter Henry season highs in targets and receiving against the Colts. He's been a really good pickup for the Patriots. Jonnu Smith, not so much.
Jets, I know a lot of people played Michael Carter. Michael Carter actually ended up like 30% in cash, which was insane. Like I was going to play Jeff Wilson, not Michael Carter. I ended up playing Gaskin, which, was even worse than Carter. But anyways, Carter comes back and this is what you get with the Jets. Like, of course it makes sense for Michael Carter to play the whole game, to have a big role, to catch a bunch of passes. It's not what happens in reality, though, when you're the Jets, because you have to give Tevin Coleman work. Because Michael Carter can only run 15 routes on 35 dropbacks. Because Zach Wilson is just so bad. Like, Zach Wilson's breaking our model for projections with how bad he's been. It's hard to encapsulate how bad this dude has been. Ty Johnson got scratched in this game as well. Healthy scratch for Ty Johnson. But anything for you on the Jets?
Yeah, and then Austin Walter was the number 3 back. I think he only had 2 touches, but yeah, when this is a perfect example of why you want to try to avoid, where possible, running backs on really bad offenses, because fewer touchdown opportunities, just the inability to sustain drives, turnovers that cost your team possessions, and then when you add in the fact that there are other backs taking away touches from your dude, Michael Carter is tough to justify.
Steelers, this Chase Claypool thing, man, I get that maybe he's in the doghouse, he's inconsistent, whatever. Chase Claypool only ran 28 routes on 51 Big Ben dropbacks in week 14. Whatever, he was punished, blah, blah, blah. In week 15, they need it. They need him. They need the game. 19 routes on 32 dropbacks. for Chase Claypool in week 15. And so I don't know, man. I guess I'm just giving up on this dude. I mean, the floor is like literally zero. He's like a part-time player. I mean, James Washington and Ray McLeod every week are like mixing in and mixing in ahead of him. Also, Pat Freiermuth, another bad Penn State injury. Pat Freiermuth suffered a concussion. We'll see what his status is. Is Eric Ebron already out for the year? Any thoughts on Claypool or anything else on the Steelers?
Well, I just want to say Freiermuth, that's his second concussion. So I would be shocked if he plays this week. First of all, the Steelers only ran 45 offensive plays, but that's because their offense was horrible.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we get asked to apologize for things that we're right about, which is strange. Well, I'm going to apologize for being wrong about the Steelers offense against the Titans, because that was, I mean, it was absolutely pathetic from top to bottom. Najee Harris scored 4 fantasy points.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God. And then, yeah, I mean, Deontay Johnson didn't even have like a good game, and he has a good game every week. I mean, that was just absolutely brutal. And I like the Steelers offense in that spot, and I will apologize for being wrong.
Yeah. I mean, the floor is just so low. Big Ben is like obviously like a bottom 10, bottom 5 quarterback in the league. And so the floor gets low. I also thought that they could do something in this spot, though. Just ridiculous. Titans, you know, Julio is, speaking of done, I mean, it's crazy because like I never try to predict in-game injuries, but every time I was going to click Julio, I was like, I mean, what are the chances this dude actually makes it through the game and even plays well? And it turns out he doesn't make it through the game, pulls his hamstring, done for the day. I'm sure he'll be missing more time as he typically does. I do think watching them, like Deontay Foreman is actually pretty good. I mean, he got 22 carries and 3 targets. Like Deontay Foreman can play. And when they want to establish their identity as they did in this game, they got a ton of running back carries and touches off. So I think he's at least interesting. And also AJ Brown's been activated from IR. We'll see if he plays. I believe they have a Thursday game this week. We'll see if he ends up playing or not. Any Titans takes?
Deontay Foreman was a 3rd-round pick of the Texans in 2017, and he tore his Achilles. And you know, the history of running backs that have come back successfully from torn Achilles, the number is like literally 0. You can make sort of arguments for a guy here, but Deontay Foreman, like legit, could be the first running back to ever successfully make it back from a torn Achilles at the NFL level. Daigle was saying that he got hurt. Daigle's back, by the way. Daigle was saying that Deontay Foreman.
Yeah, he left and came back in the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, 24 touches against Pittsburgh. San Francisco up next on Thursday night. Oh, my God, the Titans pass catchers. None of them went over 32 yards at Pittsburgh. We were just saying how pathetic Pittsburgh was. How about the team that lost to the Steelers? But A.J. Brown is back. So, and it's going to be A.J. Brown alone. I don't know. I guess, well, I mean, that's on Thursday night, so we could talk about it.
Yeah, I think that I don't think it's a lock that he plays, but yeah, I think he has a good chance to play. And we've been in this spot before where, you know, A.J. Brown is there and he has no target competition. Obviously, he's going to project massively in this Thursday night game against the 49ers. All right. That is going to do it for this AFC team by team pod. Wanted to let you all know, no rest of season top 150 show this week as everybody is in their fantasy semifinals and playoffs and season long. Didn't think that was too relevant anymore, but the rest of our shows, for the most part, are on schedule for this week as we approach Christmas Eve on Friday, Christmas Day on Saturday. Happy holidays to everyone. For Evan, for Producer Luke, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.